Last week, we simply could not conclude our RERA Helpline special on urban reality. The big message which came from some of the calls we got and questions we could take is that the buyers are feeling shortchanged. RERA Act was conceived to help existing buyers who are stuck in delayed projects and one-sided agreements. So it stands to reason that the various state acts should have first and foremost addressed existing buyers' concerns. It's precisely that this has been diluted. So let's kickstart a helpline this week with our panelists. Joining me today are Sunil Tyagi, Senior Partner, ZS Capital, Gitambar Anand, CMD, ATS Infrastructure, Milind Deshpande, Head RERA Committee, MBBA, Sudeep Malik, Partner, Khetan & Co., Abhay Upadhyay, Convener, Fight for RERA, and Malyapan Murli, MD, Shriram Properties. Murli, we were talking last time and unfortunately we need to conclude the conversation. You said that there were many consumer laws which were already in place to help the buyers. But you know that including Bangalore, which has a sterling reputation, there are buyers who are stuck in projects. In Telangana, there are buyers who are stuck in projects. In fact, we've got several tweets from groups like Alien Buyers who say that none of these consumer forums and even acts did not help them at all. So what gives you the confidence, or what would you like to say as a builder to the buyers that this time around things are going to be different and they will get justice?
Absolutely. See, there has been any number of laws to protect the consumer in this country. RERA is another law. See, law having, just for the sake of having law is not going to help anybody. Enforcing the law is going to help. That's the only way it can be done. So where we lacked in the past, we have not enforced the law against the defaulters. That's where the consumer got into difficulties. RERA is another act which has come in with stringent provisions, which other act also has got stringent provisions. It is not that, other act is against the consumer. So for whatever the act Government of India has got is against the consumer, and this act is in favor of consumer. It is not. So this is a good act which has come up. This is a historical one. Let's look at how do we make sure that consumer is benefited. That's very important.
Okay, Murli, we got your point that it has to be enacted, and I think that's very important. We'll keep this, we'll come back to you. We do have a caller, Mr. R.K. Ghosh, calling us from Kolkata. Murli raised the point that there are certain states which haven't even enacted the law, and Kolkata hasn't either. Go ahead, sir. What's your question?
If consensus can be reached for GST, why not for RERA across all the states? And secondly, and importantly for me, since West Bengal has not yet implemented the RERA, what can an aggrieved senior citizen like me expect for an early resolution to the problems of non-delivery since 2010, that is the year agreed to by the builder? And thirdly, what happens to the ongoing cases in various courts after the states have implemented RERA?
Sudeep, first question, like GST, why could there not have been uniformity across country when it came to RERA? Why have states been given that leeway to actually tinker the law? I mean, even taxes were state subject in many cases, but you still had a a national tax, unified tax.
You see, Manisha, one will have to understand that the land laws in various states are different. There are different ceiling limits. There are, you see, in some states you still have Urban Land Ceiling Act. In some states you don't have them. So you see, we will have to understand that this was a very bold step taken by the central government. Every state had its own land laws, so the states were dealing with the subject. The central government said, no, we are now dealing with agreement between a developer and a flat purchaser. So we will enact this act. Now, as far as non-implementation of this act by various states is concerned, consumers can approach High Court, and under their jurisdiction, the High Courts can will then direct the state government to take necessary steps for implementation of the act, framing of the rules, and appointment of authority. There is also an enabling provision under Section 91 where central government can remove difficulties under the act. If the state does not, maybe the central government will take recourse to Section 91 and direct the state governments to adopt the rules framed for the union territories, the draft model agreement framed for the union territories. I do not know whether they will take recourse to Section 91, where there is a provision that the central government, to remove difficulties, can take necessary steps.
All right. So, Abhay Upadhyay, how does it sound to you? I mean, you are in Kolkata where the industry is completely at a standstill. Not having RERA rules also puts the builders in a spot. It's not just the buyers and the consumers who are stuck in projects. What are you hearing in your state? It's really, I mean, Telangana at least we're expecting them to come out soon. West Bengal is completely gone quiet.
As we have all been talking about, if the implementation of RERA is not done in letter and spirit, then I don't think we will be achieving the objective of enacting a new law. And the way things were continuing, that there was no delivery, that people have taken money for giving you something, and when the actual delivery came, it was not at all matching with what was promised, and there was a compensation which was only peanuts, and that also at the mercy of the builder if he feels like he will give. So all these things will continue. And I don't think where it is going to end. And as Mr. Ghosh rightly pointed out, if there can be uniformity in all the central legislations, why can't there be uniformity in RERA? And now coming to one important thing, Manisha, which somebody mentioned just now, that the state government have different land-related laws. Now you see, if that be the case, then why are they copying? Most of the states have copying each other definition of ongoing projects. So they are not coming out with something which is actually concerning the land laws, but they are only trying to copy the provisions of ongoing project so that they can give benefit to the builder. The only intention behind diluting the ongoing project is so that builder, because they have done so much of a harassment has been given to home buyers, that they can escape this.
Abhay, yes, there are a lot of stuck buyers, and I completely buy your point that, Sunil, I mean, I think the entire, it might be 5% of the industry, Sunil Tyagi, but the fact of the matter is that the trust crisis is because of these delayed projects. Yes, 8 years, 10 years, 12 years. What happens in states like West Bengal, and Telangana will come out with rules sooner than later, but West Bengal, we are not hearing anything. What Sudeep said is that, do you think central government should use that Section 91 and just make the Central Act applicable? Because how is it that builders in Kolkata are still, without, they have the rules, so they don't need to register?
So I may clarify, Section 91 only empowers central government to remove difficulties, but not for implementation. And that power also has been given only for a period of 2 years, which means initially whatever problems and confusions are created, they will clarify that. Like they clarify whether till the registration can you advertise or not sell. They came out with clarification till registration. Unless it is registered, you can't. The time has been given for 3 months, but it doesn't mean in 3 months you can sell or advertise.
So it's unconstitutional.
So that clarification came. That's what they can do under Section 91 for 2 years, because it's a new act. They can keep clarifying whatever is to be clarified, but they will not be able to do anything. They can push state governments, but they have been pushing. Is there any result?
So it's the same thing, right? Going to the high courts, and courts are already overloaded, Sunil, and that's the whole problem. Do you think they will fast track these kind of, this hearing on no RERA rules? Is there a way to fast track it?
I would expect that the courts will take up it on priority and will issue directions, because they only have to issue directions.
All right.
To just comply with the act. That's it.
Okay, High Court, that's where you go. If you do not, your states haven't actually notified RERA rules. Next caller is from Bengaluru. Kalyan, hi, what do you want clarity on?
Hi, see, my question to the panel is there is one clause in Bengaluru or Karnataka RERA rules. That is, the 60% completed projects are out of RERA. So now the question comes over here, there are builders who are, trying to find out what other loopholes can be, they can come up with some kind of loopholes to this particular clause. So what are the ways government of Karnataka is trying to prevent that builders should not be or cannot be given the opportunity to use those loopholes?
Milind, is there a way, 60% completion must be basically for large projects, isn't it? What is it? Let me get Milind to answer this. Milind, would you be able to take this question?
Yes, actually, I have not gone through fully to the Karnataka rules, but then whatever I've read about it, it's a similar kind of a provision which actually exists in many other states. But then this definitely appears to be a provision keeping in eye big townships. And now we need to check whether, the question is that how the builders can be stopped to use this loophole. The question is we have to decide whether this basically is a loophole or it actually does not contravene, it's absolutely in line with the provisions of the Central Government Act. Most important problem, Manisha, which I feel is RERA is definitely good at. It has got a very much balanced provisions. But the problem which RERA I feel is where on the front where it is lacking fully is it doesn't define what exactly is the completion of the project. To answer the question from the gentleman from Bengaluru, I would buy an argument that Section 91 provides for removal of all kinds of difficulties and the central government is empowered to do so. Central government should immediately come up with a new definition wherein the completion of the project would be defined. What exactly constitutes the completion of the project and what exactly is an ongoing project. Central government does have a power to do so, and in fact I had written a mail to the Urban Development Department that because different states have been defining ongoing projects in a different manner, and then this is leading to lots of litigations and controversies and a public outcry, I had requested the Urban Development Department to come up with a definition so that we can have in a proper sense what exactly can be called as a completion. Now coming back to the point of 60%, when you have an act which gives a liberty to the state government to implement, naturally we are going to see some new definitions, and so far as the constitutionality of these provisions is concerned, I feel that state government is very much in power to have new definitions. Question is whether they contravene the basic provisions of RERA. So there is no such provision in the RERA which will stop the state government from defining what is an ongoing project. So we have a legal dilemma here that although the intentions of the act is different, but the state government is empowered to define an ongoing project.
Okay, as I'm seeing the rule book of RERA, there is some definition on completion authority. In fact, there is a absolute definition on what completion certificate should entitle. It means that local authority or any authority created or established under any law for the time being in force, if you give the permission for development of immovable property. Okay, very confusing. We'll come back and we'll decipher this and we'll keep this conversation going. You're watching the Urban Reality special on RERA. We're taking viewer questions to basically enable them to find their solutions within the parameter of state RERA. Stay tuned.